we'll take a look at a multi-level complex experimental design that wanted to take a look at the halo effect. And what it did is it set up a mock scholarship simulation where it asked subjects to make decisions on which application would deserve a scholarship. And what they did was they included images of the hypothetical people that were submitting these applications, and they wanted to know what effect does attractiveness have on your perceived scholarship merit. So if you are an attractive male, is that going to be beneficial for you? Will people look at your scholarship application and say, oh yes, I would rather give it to this individual than this individual? Or will it actually work against you? Will they actually take a look at this person and say, well, he's too gorgeous to be intelligent. Of course, I'm not going to give him a scholarship. And is that effect the same for when people are determining female candidates? And does that effect change when it's males judging male candidates, males judging female candidates, females judging male candidates, and female judging female candidates? So it's a very interesting study that takes a look at this idea of the halo effect, this idea of attractiveness affecting people's judgments. And it could not have been done, again, in that simple pre-test, post-test experimental design that we've encountered so far. So that's the kind of general goal. That's what we're going to be looking at. Real psychology questions that used complex designs to answer those. So once again, is it better to be attractive or is it better to be unattractive? And is that effect different if you're a male or if you're a female? And is that effect different if you're being judged by males or you're being judged by females? That's what this complex experimental design was looking at. So it was a study by Aclia, Sporlia, and Maynor back in 2010. Once again, we have a staged manipulation. So subjects were told that the experiment was a scholarship selection committee simulation. So they were well aware that no scholarships were actually being awarded. This was a simulation. And they were told that all they wanted to know was, how do people make decisions on who gets a scholarship? So you would get 3 scholarship applications, and all they wanted to know is, who do you think is the best application? Unknown to them, it was actually a subject about the halo effect. And the halo effect is where one characteristic influences your perception of another characteristic. It's kind of like the halo that angels have. It makes you look like a better person. Putting a ring around your head doesn't actually make you a better person, but it makes you look like a better person. Well, if you're attractive, that doesn't actually make you more intelligent, but does it make you look more intelligent? That's what they're looking for, the halo effect. So this is the situation that they had, and it's got one very important aspect that we absolutely have to be stable on, and then we'll take a look at the results next time. So 3 variables that they looked at, 3 independent variables. Number 1 was subject sex. So the subjects were split into 2 groups, male subjects and female subjects. So these were male judges of who gets a scholarship and female judges of who gets a scholarship. The next variable was the target sex. It was the target of the applicants. And this is the one that needs to be pointed out. One little very crucial characteristic here was that you got 3 applications. They were all from the same target sex. So you either looked at 3 applications from males or you looked at 3 applications from females. Not one subject got 2 males and a female in their application packet or 2 females and a male. So keep that in mind. If you were a male and you got a male application, all 3 of your applications were male. If you got a male and you got a female application, all 3 of your applications were from females. And then the last thing that they did was they included a photo with each application. And you'll notice that the names of these researchers were foreign names. They're somewhere in Europe. And apparently that is still a custom that is oftentimes done with applications in different countries. It is not uncommon to submit your resume and submit your photo as well. And it's actually very interesting. And the importance of this study this study actually became more important for the one reason that most applications now for a job, even in North America, come with a photo of the applicant. So why is it that most applications now come with a photo of an applicant? Any ideas?
Is it like to see who they're hiring? Because people are like in today's time compared to, I don't know, before social media and things, people didn't put their pictures up like that. Now it's just like whatever people are okay with putting at face.
You're close. You almost got it exactly. It's social media. So whereas before, so people still don't send in their photos with your application. And I highly recommend, do not send in your photo with your application. So when you're applying to grad school, when you're applying to a job and they ask you for a resume, do not attach a little printout photo of yourself. That's not what we do here in North America. It's not seen as professional. But you would be remiss to think that most of us are not one Google search away from knowing how we look. If you got a Facebook account, if you have an Instagram account, if you have any sort of social media presence, the preface, the newspaper that they have here, if your name has appeared in an article in the preface, like, oh, so-and-so at the recent advising fair, you're on Google and you're easy to find. So this is actually becoming more and more common where employers can just look you up. And oftentimes they're looking you up for to see if your credentials match your social media profile. But if you put a selfie of yourself online somewhere, chances are they can see it when they're looking at your resume. So becomes very important. What happened here in this last independent variable is that a picture was attached to each individual application, and that picture was either somebody that was highly attractive, somebody that was in the middle of attractiveness, or somebody that was unattractive. And the way that they typically do these, if anybody's ever interested in doing studies in attractiveness, we all know that different people find different people attractive, right? Some people like blonde hair, some people like brunettes, some people like people really tall, some people like people not so tall. We know that there's a bunch of differences between what people find attractive. So in any study like this, what they typically do is they do a study beforehand where they take like 100 pictures and they just ask people on a scale of 1 to 10, how attractive do you find this individual? And what they'll do is they'll just choose the picture with the highest average, that's your highly attractive individual. Picture with the lowest average, that's your unattractive individual. Picture with your average, that's your middle attractive individual. So these are sort of like bias-free in terms of the experimenter. It's not what the experimenter thinks is attractive, it's what the general population thinks is attractive. So there's your situation. So when a male subject is deciding who's going to get a scholarship, and they're looking at 3 male scholarship applications, who are they going to pick? Are they going to pick the incredibly attractive male? Are they going to pick the middle attractive male? Or are they going to pick the unattractive male? And just so that you know, the quality of the scholarship applications was randomized and counterbalanced. So they were the same across the 3 applications. So what's going to happen when males are judging male applications? Who's going to get picked when males are judging female applications? Are males going to take a look at the highly attractive female and say, wow, she just kind of looks more intelligent to me, I'm going to give her the scholarship? Or are they going to take a look at the highly attractive female and say, well, she kind of looks like the stereotypical bimbo that we hear about, I'm not going to give her the scholarship, she can't possibly be intelligent. What's the effect going to be of attractiveness when males are judging females? And then think about female subjects. What's going to be the effect of attractiveness when females are judging which male should get a scholarship? Are they going to give it to the highly attractive, middle attractive, or unattractive one? And then what's going to happen when females are judging female applications? Which one of these is going to get the highest amount of scholarships from those judges? So that's what we're going to take a look at next time. Is there a main effect for subject sex? Is there a main effect for target sex? Is there a main effect for attractiveness? And then we're going to take a look at each of the interactions, finishing up with the big interaction of what happens when males are judging males, what happens when males are judging females, what happens when females are judging males, what happens when females are judging females. And spoiler alert, it's different for all four. So try to think about how attractiveness is going to affect each four of these judgment combinations. All right, so our dependent variable was the percentage awarded a scholarship. So randomly, you would have a 33% chance of being awarded a scholarship. So if they just put the scholarships out and just blindfolded the subjects and said, which one do you want? Oh, I want this one. Subjects would get awarded, the applications would have a 33% chance. So higher scores means that they were helped. Lower scores means that they were avoided by the other variables. So independent variable A is the target sex. That's the sex of the applicants. 2 levels, male versus female. Independent variable B, that is the levels of attractiveness. 3 levels, either low, medium, or high. And finally, independent variable C is the subject sex. Who's doing the judging? 2 levels, male and female. And we have a 2x3x2 design. We have 12 individual combinations of everything. And now we need to break this down into its main effects, into its interactions, and into its 3-way interaction. All right, so let's get going on this. So first one, target sex. 2 levels, male versus female. So was there a main effect? So another way to think about this is that in this case, all we want to know is what is the effect of the sex of the applicant. And that means that we're not interested in questions of attractiveness. We're not interested in the effect of attractiveness. And we're not interested in the sex of the judges. So we're not worried about whether it's a male judging somebody, whether it's a female judging somebody. It's just people judging, in general, attractive people. So do we think that male applicants or female applicants will have different scores on the percent that were awarded a scholarship? So percent target in first position, this is what percentage of the applicants were awarded a scholarship. So any ideas on this? I'll give you a hint. This is a bit of a trick question, just to make sure that we are thinking about the design of the experiment. Yep.
Wouldn't there be no difference just because?
Yep, you're right.
You're looking at like 1 out of every 3 is going to get a scholarship.
Exactly. So that's why we're starting with this one, just to keep that in our minds. Out of the male applicants, it has to be 33% because you're given 3 applications. They were all male. 1 out of 3 was going to get the application. It had to be 33%. Out of the female applicants, also had to be 33%. You could be the most chauvinistic individual in the world, have the worst opinion of females in the world. You would still give 1 out of every 3 females in this experiment a scholarship. So this is interesting because if you only look at the main effects, then this variable here of target sex couldn't have a main effect. It couldn't possibly have a main effect just by the design of the experiment. So it almost, if you only look at main effects, seems like a throwaway variable. Why even include it? You couldn't possibly have an effect. But as we're going to see, just because it doesn't have a main effect doesn't mean that it's not doing anything. It does have an effect, but it only comes out in the interactions. All right, so let's take a look at one that actually does have an effect. So this is attractiveness. So we're looking for the main effect of attractiveness. So in this case, we are not worried about whether the applications are from a male or a female, right? We're not worried about applications from males or females. We're just looking at applications from people. And we're not worried about whether it's a male or a female that's judging these applications. It's just people judging these applications. So when people are judging the applications of people, what is going to be the effect of being low, middle, or high attractive? Who do we think is going to get the most scholarships, who's going to get the second most, and who's going to get the fewest scholarships when people in general are judging other people in general? So any ideas on this one? Yep.
I would think that the higher attractive people would get more scholarships because generally in like society most of the time like attractive people are just considered to be better at most stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's a nice example of a hypothesis that is driven by a theory. So if I was writing this introduction, we would talk about the halo effect. The halo effect is that idea that attractiveness influences your perception of other characteristics. The classic halo effect is that highly attractive people are perceived as more intelligent, middle attractive people as middle intelligent, lowly attractive people as unintelligent. So in this situation, if the halo effect is occurring, highly attractive individuals should get the most scholarships, middle attractive should get in the middle, low attractive should get the least. So that's one possible prediction. The halo effect is supported if this is the highest, middle, and then this is the lowest in terms of scholarships. Any other predictions of anything else that might occur? Does anybody think that the low attractive individuals might get the most scholarships? Does anybody believe the middle attractive individuals might get the most? Got one believer. Well, as it turns out, you're right. It was the middle individuals that got the most scholarships. So this result does not support the halo effect. The halo effect says this should be highest, this should be second, this should be lowest. So if I was writing this discussion section, I would say that our results do not support the theory of the halo effect. Specifically, the most scholarships were given to the middle attractive individuals, then followed by the high, then followed by the low, and that's not what the halo theory predicted. So this was kind of the first indication that something really interesting is going on here, because for some reason, people in the middle of attractiveness were given the highest scholarships, whereas the halo effect would have predicted that relation, which they did not find. And if you ever look up the halo effect, it is robust. It has occurred very often in psychology. It's been replicated very often, so this was very surprising. What is going on here? All right, so we got one last variable, independent variable B, main effect. Yes, there was. As it turns out, middle attractive individuals received the most scholarships. All right, so we got one last independent variable, one last main effect to look at, and this is subject sex. So once again, we got two levels, male or female. And when we're looking at this main effect, we're not interested in attractiveness. So we're not interested in the difference between low, middle, and highly attractive individuals. And we're not interested in male versus female applicants either. All we're interested is in female judges versus male judges. So do we think that female judges are going to give away more scholarships than male judges? Or are male judges going to give away more scholarships than female judges? Or is there going to be no difference? So I've already pulled this move on you once, so I won't do it again. I'll just let you guys know that this one was tied as well. Not only was it tied, it had to be tied. Because if you were a male subject in this study, you had to give one of the individuals a scholarship. Males had to give away one-third of the applicants had to receive a scholarship. So it didn't matter what your opinions were. It didn't matter what your behavior was. It didn't matter what your characteristics were. Whatever type of male you were giving away one scholarship. If you were looking at 3 females, one of them got a scholarship. You're looking at 3 males, one of them got a scholarship. Same thing for females. It didn't matter what their opinions were, what their behaviors were. what their cognitive processes were. If they were looking at male applicants, one of them got a scholarship. If they're looking at female, one of them got a scholarship. So we now have 2 out of 3 independent variables that couldn't have a main effect. So again, if you only look at independent variables, this experiment is garbage, right? Because they're like, oh, we have 3 independent variables. By the way, 2 of them are useless because they can't have any main effects. That's what if we only looked at main effects. As it turns out, subject sex isn't doing anything in the main effect. That doesn't mean that it's not doing anything. The story of subject sex comes out, but only in the interactions. All right, so enough talk about the interactions. Let's get to them. We got interaction, independent variable A times B, target sex, and attractiveness. So this is basically asking for male and female applicants, does attractiveness work differently? Interaction A times C, target sex times subject sex. For male and female applicants, are they awarded scholarships differently by male and female judges? Interaction BC, attractiveness times subject sex. Does the effect of attractiveness differ for male or female judges? And then finally, we got the big 3-way interaction, which is basically saying, does who gets a scholarship depend on all 3 of these, on target sex, attractiveness, and subject sex? So if you want to predict who's going to get a scholarship, do you need to know all 3 pieces of those information? All right, so let's start off with target sex times attractiveness. Interaction, we want to know, does the difference between attractiveness depend upon the target sex, the sex of the person being judged? So attractiveness is going to have an effect. We've already seen that. We've seen that in the main effect. Is the effect of attractiveness different for male applicants than it is for female applicants? So in this interaction, it's as if we're no longer interested in the sex of the judges. They're just people. So it's just people judging males, people judging females. What's the effect of attractiveness going to be for males and females? So we'll talk about each of these in turn. So when people are judging males, what do we think? Who's going to get the most scholarships? When people are judging females, who's going to get the most scholarships? Any suggestions? Any thoughts?
I would think, at least for females, the probably the middle attractiveness would get the most scholarships. It probably wouldn't be the highest because typically, like very attractive females are just considered kind of dumber, I guess.
Okay. So in our society, we have the stereotype of the super good-looking bimbo, basically.
Yeah.
So it could be that people in this study are going to show that stereotype. They're going to buy into that stereotype. And they're going to say, you know what? We have this female here, and she's highly attractive. No way she's intelligent. So we're going to give a low amount of scholarships there. The middle attractive female, seems intelligent. And the low attractive female, I don't know, might seem the same amount, might be less. But definitely, if that stereotype is true, not if the stereotype is true, if that stereotype is believed, then we should expect females that are highly attractive to get the fewest scholarships. So that's one possible prediction. Any other ideas? Does anybody want to argue the other way, that highly attractive females will get the most scholarships? No? Okay. Does anybody have opinions on what's going to happen with males? Is it going to be different? Yep.
I think with males, it'd be almost the opposite. I think the highly attractive males will get more scholarships because attractive men are more considered intelligent than
Okay.
other men.
So in that case, that would be a more straightforward example of the halo effect. So for males, when people are judging males, they might say, well, we don't have that stereotype of the mimbo, I guess is what you would call them. So highly attractive males are going to be perceived as more intelligent middle attractive, and then less attractive. So highly attractive males will get the most scholarships, and then they'll go down to the lowest attractive individuals. Any other speculations, possibilities before we see what actually happened? All right. Well, the speculations are pretty close. So that's the actual data. That's actually what the results were. So we'll start off with the middle attractive. Sorry, we'll start off with the females. So as kind of predicted, highly attractive females did not get the most scholarships. They were not seen as the most deserving. It was actually the middle attractive females. And again, this is importantly remember, this is by people. So this is the female and male judges combined. Together, they gave middle attractive females the most scholarships. Unattractive females, they gave the least amount of scholarships to. And then for males, the effective attractiveness seems to be a little bit of a halo effect, but it kind of seems that as long as you are not unattractive, you're fine as a male, right? So high attractive and middle attractive individuals, not that much of a difference, but just as long as you are not unattractive, you do fine. So in this case, given this scenario, if somebody texted you, I'm trying to do this. If somebody had a new phone, right? One of your friends gets a new phone, and you got to do that new phone who dis thing when they text you. So they got a new phone, and so you got a new phone, and somebody texts you and says, "I'm going in for a job interview. I need to know, should I try to look really attractive? Should I try to look middle attractive, or should I try to look unattractive?" What would you have to answer your friend, depending on this, given this result here? What's the first thing you would have to do? What was that? Ask if they're male or female. So if your friend, that's what this interaction, and that's what any interaction really means. If that friend of yours says, "I got a job interview and I need to know, should I make myself look super attractive, or should I make myself middle attractive or unattractive?" You would have to say, "New phone, who dis?" Specifically, are you male or are you female? Because the story is different. If it's a male friend, you tell them, "Yeah, go put on your best suit, brush your hair, make yourself look as good as you possibly can. If not, make sure that you're at least presentable, because you'll be fine as long as you're not unattractive. Don't roll out of bed and go to this interview." But if your friend is like, "Oh no, this is Susan," you'd be like, "Oh, wait a second. No, that's completely different. Don't look too good. Don't be too attractive. Look middle attractive," right? So don't go to the salon. Don't get that new dress. Don't do your makeup. Make yourself look presentable. Don't just roll out of bed. That's the worst one. Make yourself presentable, but not too attractive. That's the success. That's the level of attractiveness that'll give you the most success. This is an interaction because it's two different stories. It's an interaction because you cannot say what's going to happen until you have that second piece of information. So you don't know what attractiveness is going to do until you say, "New phone, who dis? Are you on the blue line or are you on the red line?" All right, so does the difference between attractiveness depend upon the target sex of the person? Yes, it does. If you're a male, as long as you're above middle attractiveness, the effects are pretty much the same. If you're a female, highly attractive, not the best. Middle attractive, the best. Unattractive for both, the lowest amount of scholarships. All right, target interaction of target sex times subject sex. So does the difference between the subject sex, male or female judges, depend upon the target sex, the sex of the person being judged? This question is basically, we remove attraction, and the question is, do males differ than females in how many scholarships they're going to give to males versus how many scholarships they're going to give to females? And we won't dwell on this too much because, once again, this is the last time this is going to occur. This interaction could not be possible. It is theoretically impossible to occur. So there are two lines here, one for male, one for female. There's the blue line. It's covered up exactly by the red line. Because if you're a male, let's back up here. If you're a male judge and you are faced with 3 male applicants, So you're a male judge and you're faced with 3 male applicants, you gotta give it to one of them. You're gonna give it to 33% of the males. If you're a male judge and you're faced with 3 female applicants, you're gonna have to give it to one of them. You're gonna give it to 33% of the females. And if you're a female judge, you're gonna do exactly the same thing. You're gonna give a scholarship to 33% of the males, and you're gonna give a scholarship to 33% of the females. So this was part of the design of the experiment. By making sure that the sex of the applicants was exactly the same, you got 3 males or 3 females, they guaranteed not only that these 2 variables here, target sex and subject sex, would not have a main effect, they also wouldn't even have an interaction. It's impossible. They couldn't possibly have an interaction. Once again, might look like it's being wasted, but definitely they do have an effect, and it's going to come out in their interactions. All right, attractiveness times subject sex interaction. So in this case, we are asking, are there differences in how attractiveness works? Are there differences on the effectiveness of attractiveness for male judges versus female judges? Do male judges react differently to attractiveness than female judges do? So in this case, it's as if we said, let's forget about male applications, let's forget about female applications, it's just people applications. So when people apply and they're being judged by a male, what's the effect of attractiveness? And when people apply and they're being judged by females, what's the effect of attractiveness? That's what this interaction is looking at. All right, so this one does have a possibility to have an interaction. What do we think is going to happen? What do we think is going to be the effect of attractiveness of people on male judges? What do we think is going to be the effect of attractiveness of people on female judges? So when males are judging people, what's attractiveness going to impact their decision making? When females are judging people, how is attractiveness going to impact their decision making? Yep. Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would have a bigger impact on male judges than it would on female judges.
Okay.
Just because guys are known to like be more or less like turned on by what they see, and girls are more or less turned on by what they hear.
Okay. So based on that idea, if that theory is true, if males are more turned on by what they see and females are more turned on by what they hear, this is completely visual. So we would expect the highest scholarships, highly attractive people to get the most scholarship from males, followed by a line that kind of goes down like that. And for females, are we thinking like a flat line?
More or less, maybe a small.
More or less?
In the middle.
So like maybe a little bit of a tilt, but not as much?
Yeah.
Okay, but still the higher, the females will give more scholarships to the most attractive people?
Maybe middle people.
Maybe the middle people will get the most attractiveness? Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think the males will give the highest attractive ones the highest because we're just talking about relationships in my abnormal psych class, and they're talking about how men are typically more attracted to physical qualities, whereas women are more attracted to like resource qualities, like if you have like money and stuff like that.
Okay.
Whereas males are more physical, so I think if we're basing it off of like your physical attractiveness, I think males would do it, or would rate higher attractive people.
Okay. So we're, once again, halo effect for males, and for females, straight kind of line, like a flat line?
I don't know for females.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not really sure.
one of the difficulties in making these predictions, and again, this is why we do the results, is we need to keep in mind that the scholarships were sort of balanced in terms of their merit. So they were balanced in terms of their merit as much as possible. And in an experiment like this, what you do is you would use counterbalancing. So you would have scholarship A, B, and C, and then you would have male faces, for example, 1, 2, and 3. And you would make sure that face number 1 was on scholarship A the same amount of times that it was on scholarship B, the same amount of times that it was on scholarship C, same for face number 2, and same for face number 3. So in that way, it cancels out any sort of merit that the actual applications had, because they weren't just like, here's a picture, who do you think should get the scholarship? They were like, oh, here's an application. Oh, and by the way, here's a photo of them as well. So they did read through the application. This is kind of like when you equalize merit, what does attractiveness do? And that can get a little dicey in terms of, well, what is exactly that effect going to be when something doesn't directly speak to that prediction. So this is also going to come up when you're writing your discussion section. It's good to kind of experience it here. Some of your theories, some of your articles are not going to speak directly to what we were looking at. So in a lot of them, you're going to see percent recall. In some of them, you're going to see confidence level. But there might be ones that don't make predictions in that regard. There might be ones that don't touch on those. There might be ones, like in this case, where we have theories of visual attraction that'll affect males, but we have theories of auditory attraction that'll affect females, but there's nothing auditory here, right? So how do we make predictions for females based on that theory? And the answer is you don't. You just simply say, here's a prediction for males, and you would have a sentence that said, the theory does not apply for females in this situation, or we cannot predict for females in this situation because this is visual and they're doing auditory. So also keep that in mind in your discussion. There might be theories that you can apply to say, oh, this theory predicts a lot about percent recall, but it predicts nothing about confidence intervals, and don't try to force it into predicting something about confidence intervals. Just acknowledge it and just be like, well, this theory predicts this percent recall. It says nothing about confidence intervals. So if we find what it predicted in percent recall, then that'll support the theory. If we don't, it'll refute the theory. And we're just going to ignore confidence levels when we're talking about that theory. All right, any other predictions about what we might find? All right, nobody wants to go for the males being flatline across because they don't notice attractiveness. That stereotype of the wife goes out, she gets her hair done, she comes home, and her husband doesn't even notice. Nobody wants to? Okay. Nobody wants to bite on that one? All right, so that's the effect right there. And as some of you predicted quite correctly, male judges are affected by attractiveness in your typical halo effect. So the most attractive people got the highest scholarship from males. The middle attractive people, middle from males, unattractive people got the least. And in terms of females, once again, it was the middle attractive people that got the highest scholarships from females. Fewer if you were highly attractive, and then fewer if you were unattractive. So not a flat line. Attractiveness was definitely affecting both sets of judges, but once again, in a very different way. So let's play that telephone game one more time. You get a text on your cell phone, and a friend of yours is saying, I'm going to a job interview. Should I get all dressed up and make myself look as attractive as possible? Should I just roll out of bed and go? What does your psychology knowledge recommend? What would you need to know based on this result right here? Yep.
Who was your interview with?
You would need to know who their interview is with. So you would text them back and you would say, who are you getting interviewed with? And if they say, oh, I looked it up online, my interviewer is a male, you would say, oh, in that case, look your best. Get as dressed up as you possibly can. Get your makeup done, get your hair done, take a shower, put on your suit and tie, make yourself look presentable, because that's going to be the best attractiveness level if your judge is a male. If they come back to you and say, oh no, my interview got rescheduled, I'm now being interviewed by a female, then you would say, oh, well, that changes the story. If it's a female interviewer, go for middle attractiveness. Not too much makeup, don't just roll out of bed, make yourself presentable, but not too presentable. That's going to give you the best effect in terms of the effect on your interview. So once again, that idea of needing two pieces of information is the core of an interaction. That idea of not being able to know what the effect of attractiveness is until you know what judge is there, until you say, where are you going? Are you going to be on the red line or are you going to be on the blue line? And you can't say what the effect of attractiveness is. That's the core of an interaction. All right, so does the difference between attractiveness depend upon the subject sex, men or women judges? Yes, it does. Men have a classic sort of halo effect. Women have this inverted U, where the most scholarships go to middle attractive people. All right, so now we're going to get to the final three-way interaction. So target sex times attractiveness times subject sex interaction. Does the pattern of results depend upon all three levels? Basically, if your friend texted you and said, I'm going for a job interview, what should I do? Do you have to text back? Number one, new phone, who dis, male or female? Number two, who is interviewing you? If both of those pieces of information is required, then we have a three-way interaction. If not, then we don't have a three-way interaction. Spoiler alert, we have a three-way interaction. So let's start taking a look at what that three-way interaction is. All right, so we're going to start off with male applicants. So we're going to first restrict our look at male applicants. And what I want to know is when males are judging male applicants, who's going to get the most scholarships? And when females are judging male applicants, who's going to get the most scholarships? So any speculations on that?
I think for females judging males, it'll just be like a typical halo effect.
Okay, so for females judging males, highly attractive males get the most scholarships, and then that decreases as attractiveness decreases. So that would be the prediction from the halo effect. Any predictions for males judging males? What's going to happen there?
I think for that case, it'll be the middle attractive people will get, or the middle attractive males will get the most scholarships.
Okay.
It will and then the least attractive males will probably get the least still.
All right. Any mechanisms come to mind?
I would say because a lot how guys view other guys is less typical that we think super attractive guys are just going to be smarter. Just there's a stereotype of the strong attractive jock, but he's just kind of dumb.
Right. Okay. So in this case, when we didn't see it when people were judging males, but when males are judging males, maybe that stereotype of the attractive individual can't possibly be intelligent will come out as well, right? So, there are these stereotypes, and I think sometimes we don't want to just come out and say it and say that, oh, these stereotypes exist, because we wish they didn't exist. But the behavioral, psychological reality of it is it does exist. So you don't have to watch too many teenage comedies to know that the idea of the attractive female bimbo and the idea of the dumb jock are pretty standard, right? They're stock characters. Not because people look at them and say, I don't understand why they would think that. It's because they look at them and say, that seems about right. That seems to fit the stereotype. So there are these stereotypes out there. We need to be aware of them as psychologists. If that's the area that you're going into, you are going to delve into some pretty disheartening stuff, but we need to be aware of it because it is a behavior and it does impact how we do our cognition. All right, any other speculations about what we might find? Yep.
I feel like if it's the same sex judging the same sex, male judging male and female judging female,
Okay.
it'll be the middle attractive people who have the highest scholarships, because I feel like you almost get some competitiveness or jealousy, because if you're judging somebody that's the same sex as you, there is you have something to be compared on.
Yep.
And so you can't possibly let this person be attractive and smart, so you can't give them the scholarship. They can't have it all.
Okay.
But if it's a male judging a female or a female judging a male, where it's more that's what you do when you go to find a boyfriend or spend your life judging, like, most people judging the opposite sex to figure out who they think is most attractive, who they want. Like, that's natural to, like, look to the attractive opposite sex.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. It totally does. So there is a lot of this this idea of in group versus out group. You judge people in group differently than you judge them out group, and sometimes you're friendlier to your in group. Sometimes you're friendlier to the out group. So it could be that when females are judging males, they look at an attractive male and it's an out group, right? They're not in the same category. They're not competing for the same resources, so they don't worry about it. But when you're judging inside your own group, all of a sudden you're in the same category. You're competing for the same resources, and one of the big kind of psychological feelings that we all have is that belief in a fair world, I believe is what it's called. And everybody has a belief in a fair world to some degree. And nothing gets us angrier than violations of a fair world, violations of justice. That's why if you ever take a look at what is the top trending topics, in social media or in the news, it'll always be violations of fairness. So it'll be things like cultural appropriation, right? Because people are like, it's unfair that they're stealing my culture for a Halloween costume. And then the other people will be like, it's unfair that I can't wear what I want without being criticized. Both sides are angry because both sides perceive it as unfair. We kind of have this feeling that life should be fair. And when you see somebody that's highly attractive, and you find out, oh my gosh, they're super intelligent as well, it just seems like too much, right? So it's like, oh, you're highly attractive. Well, you can't be that intelligent. Oh, you got a 4.0 and you were valedictorian. Well, you can't be that physical. Oh, you were captain of the football team. Well, you can't be that talented. Oh, you're a concert pianist, right? It gets to the point where you're like, I hate you so much because it's just too much, right? It violates that feeling of fairness. So that could happen here. In group, we might see that in this case, males judging males, maybe the highly attractive males will get lower. Middle attractive males are like, you know what, that's fine, that's good enough. They could be intelligent, unattractive males, who knows? All right, so that's a lot of speculation. Some of that is right, some of that is incorrect. That is what we found when males were being judged. So for females, we'll do the red line first. For females judging males, we kind of have a classic halo effect here. And it almost seems as if, as long as you're beyond some sort of threshold, you're attractive enough. So if you're highly attractive, that's fine. If you're middle attractive, that's fine. As long as you're above this threshold of attractiveness, you're okay. But if you're unattractive, then you're not perceived as deserving of a scholarship. And then for males judging males, we get a little bit of what you were talking about, where the highest, not by much, but it is the highest, is actually the middle attractive males. So the middle attractive males get the highest. Highly attractive males, it's less. It's not much less. It's just a little bit less, but it is less. So that would support the idea that they feel they're in competition, brings it down a little bit. But definitely the least amount goes to the unattractive individuals. All right, so that was males being judged. Males being judged by females, males being judged by males. What about males judging females? Let's do that one first. What do we think is going to happen when males judge females? What was that? Probably the halo effect. Anybody want to predict anything differently? Yep.
I think they'll play into the stereotype of like the dumb bimbo.
Okay.
Then middle attractive females get the most.
All right. So we have playing into the stereotype of the dumb bimbo. Once again, that kind of idea maybe of fairness to a lesser degree. And then we also have the idea of the halo effect, where higher attractive individuals get the most scholarships. As it turns out, it is the halo effect, and it's about as straight line a halo effect as you could get. So this is literally the classic halo effect. This is the line you would get if you asked a psychology professor to draw you a hypothetical halo effect. It would say, oh, this is what a halo effect looks like. So that's about as halo effect as you can get. And it's interesting that this is for males, because you'll notice that for females, we don't get so much of a halo effect. And we'll see what happens in the last one in just a bit. But for males, we get this straight line halo effect. And this is a good indication of why you report your subject characteristics. Because you need to know who's in your experiment, where did you get them from, and if you were to do a look at the history of the halo effect, it is one of the most robust outcomes, right? Like it's been tried again, it's been reproduced. It happens over and over and over again. And I would be very interested to know what were the subject breakdowns of the subjects in those experiments. And I would bet they were mostly male. I would bet that out of 100 subjects, 80 of them were male. Out of 100 subjects, maybe 90 of them were male, because the halo effect has been found over and over and over again. And males, apparently, when they're judging females, give a clean halo effect. Like this is a beautiful halo effect. This is exactly the kind of data where if you're doing an experiment and you see this, you're like, oh my goodness, so easy to interpret and so clean and so nice. But that's your classic halo effect. All right, so one last one, females judging females. What do we think is gonna happen when females judge females? Who's gonna get the most, who's gonna get the least?
Middle attractiveness gets the most.
Middle,
Competitive, like in-group, out-group, you can't have it all thing.
you have your competitive in-group, out-group, you can't have it all, so middle attractive gets the most. Any other predictions on that? I think you've been very convincing on that argument. Yeah, that's exactly what they found. And this result is actually breaking my computer. This result is actually why this research got picked up by mainstream media. So I heard about this in a popular, news site, webpage. This is the effect that they got when females were judging females. So by far, the greatest effect of attractiveness, by far the lowest scores for the highly attractive females. Middle attractive females got the most. This is like the first time unattractive females did better than any other group, in this case doing better than highly attractive females. So that was a big result, that was a big, huge result. That's the reason that this got picked up. To wrap up our look at interactions, this is a classic three-way interaction. If you wanted to give somebody advice on how attractive should they be in a job interview, you need two more pieces of information before you can tell them the effect of attractiveness. You need to know, are they male or female? And you need to know, are they being judged by males or female? Because every single one of these lines is different. This is your classic three-way interaction. But we're not quite done with this, because we do need to think about this a little bit more in terms of critical thinking. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at interpreting these results to kind of help us with our interpretation of our discussion section, and specifically with our applications of the discussion section. And what I would like you to think about is, in this result, what caused this interaction? So we have this interaction, and this is a very important sort of thing to bring up. We have this interaction. Two of the variables were assigned. So the target sex, the sex of the applicants, that was randomly assigned. Subjects were said, here are 3 male applicants. Subjects were said, here are 3 female applicants, randomly assigned. Attractiveness was also assigned to everybody. Everybody saw 3 levels of attractiveness. The one variable in here that could not be assigned was the subject sex, the judge's sex. So you could not have a subject walk in and say, you're going to be a male today, so go over there, and you're going to be a female today, so go over there. You can't do that. You can't randomly assign that. Because of that, you have to be very careful when you're interpreting these interactions. So one reason for this, and this is the reason that kind of made it into popular culture, is that this is just the way that females are. They are vindictive. This is vindictive, let's face it. This is them saying, I hate that, good-looking woman, and I'm taking her down, right? This is like plain and simple. That's what people interpreted when they saw this. What they forgot, though, is that this is not guaranteed to be because women are this way. This is not guaranteed because this is the way that women are. It could be anything else associated with being a female in this particular society. So as psychologists, we're going to do this next time after the exam. I want you to think about what could have possibly caused this interaction. So we've had some really nice clues today. Is it about competitiveness? Is it about in-group versus out-group competition? So one possibility is that, yes, it is about competitiveness, because you take a look at the female curve, and even though it's male more extreme, take a look at the male curve. Male curve is the same curve, right? More for the middle. So if it's about competitiveness, why would females feel that they're under more competitive stress than males do, right? Or is it about something else? Is it about access to resources? Why would there be more access to resources than this versus that? We're going to take a look at that for critical thinking, because again, one of the dangers of this is jumping to conclusions. And it's quite possible that this female curve occurred because that's just the way women are. That's one possibility. But our minds lock in on that one possibility. So we got to fight that as psychologists and say, all right, that is one possibility. What about competitiveness? What about other factors that are associated with being male or female in our society? And that's what we're going to do. All right, any final questions or comments before we wrap it up? All right, that is it for today.